Forced entry. Bailiffs cannot force entry for civil debts unless you've previously allowed them in and they've got a levy, because then they can come back and force entry. But if you haven't let a bailiff in for a civil debt, and this includes High Court enforcement officers as well, they cannot break in for a civil debt. Even if they bring the police cannot interfere unless there's a breach of the peace. That's what they're there for. No one can force entry for a civil debt, and that's council tax and PCNs, penalty charge notices for parking tickets and stuff. They cannot break in. Even High Court enforcement officers cannot break in for a civil debt, as long as you haven't previously let them in, because if you've previously let them in, they can break in to take the stuff that they're claiming. So never let a bailiff in, and if the old bill turn up and say, we want to talk to you about this inside, refuse. Don't let them in for that either, because then the bailiff has gained what's called peaceful entry. If you let them in, they can then start ramping it up. So do not open the door, talk to them through the letterbox, or preferably not at all. The police can only come into your house if they believe that there's a crime going on. So if you have a copper knock on your door and he is screaming, that gives him the right of entry. If you ain't got a warrant and he don't suspect a crime's going on, and there's not a criminal at large, you know, someone on the run in your house, the old bill can't even come in. So if the old bill turn up with the bailiffs, do not let any of them in. They can only force entry for criminal debts, you know, debts that have fines from magistrates and stuff like that. And that is a last resort. And then they've got to use a locksmith. So just have a look at what your situation is and find out what they can and can't do, because that gives you power over them. You can also ask them what they can do, and make sure you record it, because if they misrepresent their powers, they're in trouble. So, just to recap, council tax, parking tickets, they cannot force entry. Doesn't matter if they're a copper, doesn't matter if they're a High Court enforcement agent. Is all they can do for a civil debt is knock. If you let them in, you start having trouble. Same as vampires. Never let a vampire in your house. Not that you'd have too much problems with vampires. Well, maybe. Guys, I'll do more on this later.